Welcome back to the Tyre Recycling Podcast. We've been away for a few weeks now, but we've returned just in time for spring. I'm Richard Wilson, a contributor to Tyre Recycling. Ewan Scott, the editor of the magazine, is on standby as well. Ewan, welcome back. What have you been up to?
Well, podcast-wise, it's been quiet for the last few weeks, but that doesn't mean to say the industry's been quiet. There's been a lot happening and a lot of news, which our readers can access on the Tyre and Rubber Recycling website. We're looking at hitting something like 35 to 40 news items this month alone.
Absolutely, yeah, we are really upping our game with the online news, and in future podcasts we will dive in a bit more into what we have published in the first issue of Tyre Recycling for 2021. But let's take a closer look at today's podcast. It's the first we've had in a few weeks, maybe about a month now. So who are we interviewing today, and what are you looking to get out of this exchange?
Right, Richard. Today we're speaking with Jon Visiasouk from Tyromer, who are based in Kitchener, Ontario, and they have a devulcanise project that has gone from research through pilot plant and is now commercialised. We will also be talking to Jos van Son, who is their European chairman, and he is in charge of their all-new commercial plant at Arnhem in the Netherlands.
Okay, fantastic. Well, readers of Tyre Recycling, obviously followers of the Recirclors, will be well aware of Tyromer and that they were recently nominated in 2 awards for the best tire-derived recycled products and the Employee of the Year award through Ankita Saikia. So this will prove another great opportunity for people to find out more about their business. So without any further ado, let's jump into that interview right now.
Welcome to our latest podcast with Jon Visiasouk and Jos van Son from Tyromer. So initially, Jon, could you give us an introduction to where Tyromer is today? It's, I think, 3 years since I visited you at Kitchener.
Certainly. Thanks, Ewan, for having us. So Tyromer was started by the University of Waterloo in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario. So about an hour west of Toronto. And the technology was developed by Professor Joganakis in the Chemical Engineering Department. And Tyromer was actually incorporated in 2009 to scale up the lab invention. And so since then, we've been working to systematically scale up from a lab scale up to our standard machines now, which are running at over a metric ton per hour.
Jon, can you tell us a bit about the technology and where you are at the moment?
Sure. So Tyromer has a devulcanization technology. We utilize a twin screw extruder. So basically, we're reversing the process of vulcanization so tire material can be used again. So typically, we'll start with something like a 20 mesh crumb. We'll process it through our extruders, and then the devulcanized material that comes out, we call TDP, or tire-derived polymer. And the benefit of this material, so one, it's recycled, but two, we found that it's much easier to work back into new compounds at higher levels. So for example, for the past 4 years or so, we've been used in certain tire applications in tread at about the 20% level. And so that's the benefit that our material provides, is we found that we're able to use more in a lot of high quality applications such as tires and conveyors.
So Tyromer has now moved on from a pilot process to a full industrial process. And as part of this development, we're seeing Tyromer Europe being established in Arnhem in the Netherlands. And this has been overseen by Jos van Son in the Netherlands. So over to Josh, who's going to tell us a bit about what's happening in the Netherlands.
Yeah, so that's a plant building now at the moment. I started to get engaged with Tyromer about 2 years ago on the basis of doing engineering work for Tyromer. And in this very early stage, we said, well, we should have some kind of position in the European market, one way or the other. So we made our plan to build up the business case for a plant, a Tyromer-owned plant in Europe somewhere. And of course, I'm living in the Netherlands, and that's therefore quite logical that the Netherlands became the first grounding place for this plant. And ultimately, we decided to go for Arnhem at a former AXO site, which is now being transformed into a startup and renewable energy and circular economy activity site with all kind of new companies. So there we are.
And the plans for the plant in Arnhem, you're looking at full production and supplying the rubber industry in Europe?
Yeah. Okay. Basically, the plant in Arnhem is meant to be a pilot plant, a demonstration plant showing our process for European customers, and at the same time being a full-scale production site for the material. So it's more than just a plant demonstration. We are able to do some testing, and we have full-scale production servicing customers in having their material, but also setting up their own facilities in the near future, because our formula is selling licenses and putting more production capacity in place at customers. So we show what it is like, and that will be as we do this here with the full plant, and then they will be able to decide on the configuration they would like to have, and we will install this for their needs, their capacity needs. But in first instance, while starting up this product chain, we can support them with supplying material for the early phase of putting our material in their compounds.
So you would see the clients for the technology being other rubber manufacturers, tire manufacturers in Europe?
Yeah, that's correct. So somewhere in the chain between the Tyre Recycling and the compounders and the users of the rubber material, the big parties like the tire manufacturers. So we will be sitting somewhere in between, and it's the question which of the parties will be starting first, either on the compounder side or maybe already in the near future on the recycling side, where they will increase the added value on their rubber crumb coming out of their processes nowadays in the form of these big bags, granules.
Okay, speaking of granules, the European Chemicals Agency has recommended to the European Commission the ban on microplastics. And they've included rubber granulate in this. Is the feedstock that Tyromer uses larger than 5 millimeter?
Well, as Jon already explained, we are running our process on the basis of 20 mesh material. So we have to break down the rough granulates to this size. But it's mostly a commodity already. So you can buy ample material of this size from whatever classified tire recycler. So that's already available. And of course, we start at the higher quality end of the rubber types. which is the natural rubber granulates. But on the longer term, of course, you will also see the other more synthetic mixtures being used in our process. But this is a commodity market, so of course we influence the quality of what we buy as feedstock, and we have some expertise in what tire recyclers could manage on this level, quality level, as I have the background of breaking down tires, building up these tire recycling plants, know how to sieve and how to control the material to a fine, high quality type of granulate.
I presume you will have agreements with local tire recyclers to give you the feedstock that you require.
Yes, that's where we are now starting with some parties who have a specific type of granulate. As I said, in the natural rubber segment of the typical different type of rubbers, and we are now in the discussion of having the longer term contracts for feedstock.
In the Netherlands, you'll be spoiled for choice. Sorry, John.
Sorry, I was just gonna say a little bit to add on the feedstock, in the sense that we've standardized a few different materials, and so typically we have buffing, truck tread buffing as a standard material, and the next logical step for us is whole truck tires. So whole truck tire crumb is readily available. It's pretty standard, even in different locations around the world. And so this is basically our next big large steps feedstock source.
So really, feedstock isn't going to be an issue given the oversupply of end-of-life tires around the world. It's not something you're going to have to worry about. It's a big issue. And Tyromer coming to Europe with devulcanisation I think has a potential to be a game changer. It introduces a second larger player in the European market. So and if you're selling the technology, which the existing competitor doesn't do, then you can come at the market from both sides as a supplier and the supplier of technology. Yeah.
No, that's exactly our formula. So of course we have to do some production to prove and to continue with our development, and development still that still needs to be done on the product and the opportunities there are with the different kind of rubbers. But most important is that we build up volume, we build up capacity, and we can't do this ourselves. Moreover, we can't do this because we have we have not enough links with the compounders. The compounders are in a better position to do this, and on the other hand, perhaps also the recyclers will be in a better position to do this because they have the feedstock in house, and you cut short on logistics, and it becomes more economic if you do this at both ends or one of ends of these ends. And it's also optimized in the sense, if it's coming to the compounders, it's more optimized in the sense of recipes and how to treat the material in the best way. So, but they can do this with our process, and that's creating a lot of capacity in a fast way of penetrating the market. And this is what is the tire business is a huge volume consuming market. So we need to work on capacity ramp up once the TDP is fully accepted.
Okay. Just a question on the location. Why Arnhem in the Netherlands?
Yeah, I can give a very silly answer. I'm living very close by to Arnhem. But Arnhem used to be a place of rubber manufacturing. BASF was located on this site, and they had, after the war, huge rubber production plant. There are still some remains of small rubber rubber production companies, but there's also a lot of R&D and testing firms around. We have Vredestein still here in the Netherlands, not far from Arnhem. And there is the Technical University Twente, which is a very important R&D center for rubber and especially for regeneration of rubber. So there's a lot of reason to be here. And mind you, the market here around in a circle of about 100 kilometers, you have 100 million people living. So that's a quite intense populated part of Europe.
Yes. No, I'm curious as to the choice of the Netherlands, quite simply because it seems to be a very popular place for the rubber industry. You have Granuband, you have Cargill, you've got Rubber Resources, now Tyromer. A UK operation has been is setting up in partnership in the Netherlands, and we know of a couple of rubber researchers in the Netherlands as well. It's a hive of the rubber industry now, so it's interesting. So
yes, and just across the border, we have big parties too. I mean, that's just we are sitting here on the German border, and there's a lot of feedstock coming from Germany. If necessary, we can get this from there. And one of the biggest players in the world, Continental, Hanover, that's a few hours drive from here.
Yeah, you have it all on your doorstep. Yeah. Okay. Now, John, do you want to say a few words about sustainability in the rubber industry?
Sure. Thanks, Johan. And there's a few things to talk about sustainability. And I actually wanted to reference a BBC article that came out just the other day talking about sustainability in rubber and how we're going to continue to supply the demand that we're having. And so the article references a couple of sustainable options other than the rubber trees. So basically looking at the Kazakh dandelion and the Waiuli shrub. But one thing the article doesn't state is really looking at a renewable crop that we have every single year with certainty, which is our end-of-life tires. This is basically it's a crop that we know with certainty will come every single year. There'll be another, billion scrap tires generated around the world. And so we really think that in terms of a circular economy, reducing the amount of materials that's used around the world, using our ELTs to make new tires is basically the best case scenario we can think of.
Yeah, it's a rather sad indictment of the rubber industry that their idea of sustainability is not holistic, in that if we talk to people in the street and you ask them what sustainable means in terms of industry and the environment, they look at they expect a wider picture where an industry doesn't harm the environment. But when you talk to the rubber industry and they talk sustainability, what they're actually talking about is the sustainability of the supply of natural rubber, which in many ways runs counter to any form of environmental sustainability, because it means cutting down rainforests. It means, replacing palm oil plantations, which is sort of swapping one evil for another in many ways. Yet we've got, as you say, a renewable resource that is never going to run out, because it's always going to be there. We're always going to have tires, and the recycled material that we can get from those tires can be used in new rubber products, in new tires. I mean, I have to ask, is it always necessary to use natural rubber to make Wellingtons? Why can't we use devulcanized rubber, recycled materials to make Wellingtons? And on a global scale, that impacts on the demand on natural rubber, makes it more sustainable.
Definitely. And, you know, I think that it's really an industry challenge here. And I understand, you know, that the tire manufacturers needing to be very cautious, you know, when they adopt a new material. So obviously they, you know, they have the highest quality and stringent standards that are required. So I understand, you know, kind of the hesitation to get into it. But I think even in the last couple of years, we've really seen a change in the attitude and the urgency in which these solutions are starting to be developed. And so, you know, right now, I think there are a couple of different solutions out there, which are all good. The issue of end-of-life tires and scrap tires is so large that no one player will be able to dominate the whole industry. I really think it's a team effort all around. But you know, we need to work hand in hand. And Tyromer has always had this strategy of open innovation and collaboration, because you know, we have the expertise in the devulcanization area, and we want to lean on the expertise of these other companies in their own respective areas in manufacturing. So we're just one piece of the puzzle, but definitely we think that you know, as we go forward here, not just us, but in general, we will see a lot more usage of end-of-life tires, really in that circular economy model, trying to get them back into new tires again.
Okay. Now, one final question for Jos. So, Jos, when do you expect the plant in Arnhem to be fully up and running?
So we are now building up, and we'll be ready by the end of April, starting up testing sessions, pilot series for ourselves, internal. And this should be ready by the end of early June. Officially, the plant will start July, but we think we will have already some production in the course of June, around summer.
Okay, that's good to know, because hopefully we will be able to travel a bit more by the end of the year. And just before we were all hit by lockdowns, I had a plan to visit Belgium and the Netherlands and visit a few people. So it's if we're back on with the travel and some visits, I will schedule a visit to Arnhem to see what you're doing.
Well, you're most welcome, even.
Okay, right. Jon, is there anything else you want to add?
In terms of our Netherlands facility there, you know, we might look to do some kind of open house or something. And of course, travel right now has been difficult for everyone, but we'd love to have you out as soon as we can.
And that's it. We're back from the full interview. Ewan, for those who haven't been in touch with Tyromer's activities in the past and want to find out a bit more about them, what parts of the interview do you think will be of interest in that discussion?
I think the fact that they've taken this devulc process to commercialization will be critical, and their plans for Europe and this plant in Arnhem are not just to produce the rubber and ship it across Europe. They also want to sell the technology or license the technology, because they believe in the interest of an environmentally sound project and the circular economy, that the recycling should be done locally. So it's better to have a devulcanization plant close to the market rather than shipping all the raw materials to the Netherlands, processing it, and then shipping it halfway across Europe again. And it's also interesting that the Netherlands seems to be becoming this hub of recycling and the rubber industry, because not so long ago we interviewed Pyro 1 BV, who are setting up in Rotterdam. We know about Carbon Black Bear, who are setting up in Rotterdam. They also have a plant in Nederweert in the south of the Netherlands. And not on a podcast, but in the magazine, we spoke to the people behind the Genius project, also been developed in Amsterdam, another devulc project by a different process. So there's a lot happening in the Netherlands, and it's interesting to see this focus in the heart of Europe. It's the south of the Netherlands is a crossroads of Europe, and it's where it's all happening now.
Definitely. Do you think there is some kind of, do you think that is just by chance that we're seeing a hub of activity in the Netherlands and south of the Netherlands, or is that due to geographical location, as you say, by the fact that, you're very close, you get accessible to France, Germany, Scandinavia, you can go across, ports aren't too far away across to the UK, or is there something more, or is there something else afoot there?
I think it's mostly geographical. The Netherlands, the south of the Netherlands is at the crossroads of Europe. It's if you're traveling from France into northern Germany, you have a good chance you will cross through the Netherlands. If you're going north from Europe, you might drive through or travel through the Netherlands. It's at that crossroads of commerce. Additionally, the Netherlands has traditionally been the base of a number of tire exporting casing handlers and tire exporting companies. So there is that background to the industry there. And it also has a couple of key recyclers in Granuband and Cargro Recycling. So it's happening there. And something that we also tend to forget is that the Dutch had a lot of interest in Indonesia, which of course is a major rubber manufacturing plant. And of course, that gives them a historical base in the rubber industry. So you put it all together, and the Netherlands is in a very strong position to exploit tire recycling in Northern Europe.
Absolutely. So moving on to the next edition of the Tyre Recycling Podcast, can you tell us who we've got lined up?
Yeah, for sure. We have coming two Recircle Award winners. The first one will be with Brad Swenson and Andrew Salazar from Eco Green. We will then be interviewing Thomas Sorensen from Scandinavian Envirosystems. That latter one, we know, is one that will be awaited with much interest by our viewers, because it's one that people have actually asked for.
Yeah.
But fortunately or unfortunately, we haven't been able to do this interview until now, because Scandinavian Envirosystems were restricted by the contracts they had with Michelin and the need to have them approved by their EGM, which they held last week, approved, and it's all systems go.
Absolutely, yeah. Those confidentiality agreements and all those contracts were holding us back, so to speak, with getting this interview. But as you rightly say, we've had quite a few people contacting us via email and social media about interviewing Scandinavian Envirosystems, and it comes at a great time after they've have won the Recircle Awards. an award for the tyre and the tyre process sector for the Recircle Awards. And also, as well, as you rightly say, we've got a fascinating interview coming up with Eco Green Equipment as well to look forward to. So that's all for today's episode. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening to us via Spotify or any other podcast platforms, remember to click that subscribe button because it does help us. But until next time, thank you for watching and stay safe.